give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Good morning. Would you join with me in singing number 1010 in the teal hymnal, We Give Thanks, and let us rise in body or spirit as we join together. Number 1010. Thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for the time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. We give thanks. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share in love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Ann Arbor. I'm the Reverend Cassandra Hartley, and I have the honor of serving this congregation as Minister of Community Life. I'm joined today by the Reverend Theresa Rohlck, our Minister of Pastoral Care, Carter Smith, our Acting Director of Music Ministries, Stella Anderson, our Director of Spiritual Growth and Development, Allison Halerz, our Pianist-in-Residence, Mike Halerz, our Technology Consultant, and later you'll hear from Lois Maharg on behalf of the National Alliance on Mental Illness, or Nami, of Washtenaw County. If you're new to our congregation, we want to welcome you warmly. We're so grateful that you've trusted us with the gift of your time and presence. If you'd like to learn more about our community, we'd like to invite you to a special Newcomers Welcome directly after the service. It's in the small chapel just past the social hall called the Jackson Chapel. You'll see a sign that says Newcomers Welcome, and there you'll have a chance to ask questions, get to know staff and other congregants, and help us to get to know more about you. If you're new and joining us online, we hope that you'll take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat so that we can warmly greet you. And we encourage you to take our newcomer survey at www.uuaa.org/newcomer survey so we can learn more about you and help you get more deeply connected to our community. This is actually a wonderful time to be visiting our congregation because we're spending the entire month of August exploring the 7 UU principles in more depth. Our 7 UU principles are not creeds, they're not binding, but they act as sort of a moral guide as we strive to live them out in our daily lives and in our communal life. We're part of a living tradition, so truth for us is not sealed. It's always expanding, evolving, and changing. So it's no surprise that in recent years, a new 8th principle has been proposed. This principle focuses on building beloved community by addressing racism and other forms of systemic oppression. Several congregations have already adopted this principle, and many others are in the process. Next week, we'll have the chance to explore all 7 UU principles, plus the proposed 8th principle, in an interactive, fun, multi-generational service. So we hope you'll join us for that, in person or online. Today, we're going to be focusing on the 3rd principle, which is the acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. In our children's version of the principles, we say, we're free to learn together. As we move deeper now into our shared time of learning and growing together, I want to share the words of Reverend Sunshine J. Wolf. Reverend Wolf writes, "This is a congregation that gathers in faith, not faith in one religion or one God or one way. We gather in faith of the power of diversity, the power of love, and the hope of a world transformed by our care. We gather in faith in ourselves and those around us, not a faith that requires perfection or rightness in one another, rather a faith that in our shared imperfection we may learn to stumble and fall together. Faith that we will help one another to rise and to try again and again. We are Unitarian Universalists, and we are gathered for worship." One of the ways that we begin our worship time together each week is by lighting our chalice. Our chalice is a reminder of our connections to one another in this community, our connections to Unitarian Universalists all around the world who are also lighting chalices today, and our connections to our living tradition. If you're joining us online, we invite you to light your own chalice at home or a candle, and write in the chat, "The chalice is lit," and then whatever location you're writing from. To help us light the chalice here in Ann Arbor, I'd like to invite our children to come forward, which this morning we have Daisy, Willa, and Nate. Almost Nate. There we go. And as they prepare to send the flame forward, I invite you to repeat our chalice lighting words with me. Together, let us say, "We light this chalice for the light of truth. We light this chalice for the warmth of love. We light this chalice for the energy of action. We light this chalice for the harmony of peace." Thank you all.
Good morning. Another way that we begin our time together is by reciting the words of our covenant. As you use, as Reverend Cassie so eloquently put it, we are not bound by a single creed, but by the promises we make to one another within and beyond the walls of this sanctuary, that we will answer the call to love, peace, and justice in our world. So whether you are joining us for the first time or whether you have these words memorized, please join me as we say together, "The spirit of this church is love, and service is its law. This is our covenant with each other, to dwell together in peace, to search for truth and love, and to help one another." This morning, I am also delighted to invite you to sing with us the song of Aspiration. You can find the words on the inside cover of the gray hymnal or on the screen. So if you would please turn your attention to Carter, who will lead us in singing.
From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and trust arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung through every land, by every tongue.
That was lovely. Taking risks, opening ourselves up to failure is not easy. But it is essential if we are to make the world what we want it to be. Last week, I shared a story called What Do You Do with a Chance from the wonderful author Kobi Yamada, whose books we have used before. This morning, I bring you another of Kobi's stories that further explores how taking chances can transform us into people capable of inspiring others. Trying, by Kobi Yamada, illustrated by Elise Hurst. How do you do that? I didn't realize I had said it out loud, but the sculptor looked over and replied, "You simply do it." "Oh no, I could never do that." "How do you know?" he asked. "I just know." Confused, I walked away. He must be joking, I thought. But as I left, I couldn't help wondering what it would be like to create something so incredible. When I returned, the sculptor looked over at me and asked, "How is your sculpture coming along?" "I'm just here to watch." "The best way to give your talents an opportunity is to try," he responded. "I'd rather just watch. I can't mess things up if I just watch." "Ah, yes," he nodded. "If you do nothing, it feels safe, but everything stays the same. If you do nothing, there is less to experience, less to love, and less to learn. The fear of failing is the scariest part, and it stops most people from starting. The only way to get to where you want to go is to take a step in that direction. And the best way to do that is to begin." It was all I could think about. Even as I slept, I dreamt of creating beautiful things. I was excited to get started. But as I was working, I realized that something was wrong. With every strike, I felt a little more deflated. With every blow, my disappointment grew. This was not turning out the way I had imagined. Why did I think I could do it? Why had I let myself care about this so much? The next time I saw the sculptor, he asked about my work. I told him it was no good and that I had quit. "Why would you do that?" he asked. "Because it feels awful to want something so badly and then just be disappointed." "Yes," the sculptor replied. "Disappointment hurts, but failure is temporary and in many ways necessary. It shows us how something can't be done, which means we are a little closer to finding out how it can. When you first tried to walk, you fell, but you picked yourself up and tried again. You were willing to fail over and over and over, and that is why you succeeded. How do I know this? You are standing in front of me now." I had tried, and I had failed. Now he was asking me to try again? What good would that do? I had already proven I couldn't do it. But if I was honest, I wanted to believe that I could. So even though I worried that I wasn't good enough, I decided to try again. I worked and worked, then worked some more. And while I could see it was a little better, it still wasn't at all what I wanted it to be. I stormed up to the sculptor. "See, I told you I wasn't any good, and this proves it. Are you happy now?" "Yes," he replied, "I'm happy. It is good to see you sculpting." But it's terrible. I don't even know what I'm making anymore." "You're making progress," he explained. "I see talents emerging. I see risks being taken. I see courage. I see caring. I see perseverance. Yes, I see much progress indeed. And I hope you will keep trying." I tried again, and again, and again. As I stepped back and looked at my work, I had to admit, I wished I was better. I went to talk to the sculptor, and he asked me to go for a walk with him. He said, "I know it can be hard when things don't turn out as you had hoped, but be proud of your failures. I know I am, every one of them. I can't imagine you ever failing." He laughed, "More times than I can count. But each time you fail, you get a little smarter, a little braver, a little stronger. The truth is, we are all failures. The dreamers, the doers, the creators. Being a failure means you loved something. You cared. It means you stepped forward. You didn't hold back. You tried. That is why I brought you here." He gestured to the statues around him. "These are my friends. These are my failures. And I'm grateful for every one of them because they helped me become who I am today." "I will tell you a secret," the sculptor confided. "I am now much closer to the end of my life than the beginning. And time passes whether we have the courage to do something good and worthwhile, or we don't." It's been years since he's been gone. I will always treasure the time I spent with him, and I will never forget our conversations or what he taught me. When we make it safe to fail, we make it safe to succeed. How do I do that? The end. Before I guide our children to their last day of summer SGD classes, I wanted to extend an invitation to you. Next month will mark the beginning of another SGD year after a successful return to in-person church last fall. On any given Sunday, there are at least 20 volunteer teachers, advisors, rovers, and assistants working diligently on the other side of the building. They guide and nurture our children and youth as they consider big spiritual questions, discover the rich sources of our living tradition, learn how to lean into UU values, develop tools for creating covenant, and serve the community. We need more of you to step into this absolutely vital role. Our kids need your wisdom, talents, and warmth. Maybe you've been looking for a new way to give of your time. Maybe your own children went through the program and now is the moment to guide the next generation. Maybe you're inspired by youth-led movements sweeping the globe and want to be part of nurturing that energy. We need teachers at all elementary grade levels, assistants in the preschool and nursery, advisors and mentors for YRUU. In years to come, we will need OWL teachers at all grade levels. So perhaps if now is not the right time to commit to teaching, you can take a weekend and get trained as an OWL facilitator for the future. There are many ways to help. Our kids are truly the best ambassadors for our faith and our values. They take what they learn here with them into their schools, their teams and clubs, and their neighborhoods. They are role models for their friends and peers. I see the impact the SGD program has had on my own kids, in their righteous anger when they see injustice, in the way they stand up rather than stand by, in the way they express their commitment to love and service. Our principles are embedded in the way they move through the world. That's because of this place and all of you here and at home. Wouldn't you like to be part of something so special? If you're curious to know more, you know where to find me, and you can also email Stella at uuaa.org. And now is the time in our service when we sing our children to their programs. I invite our rising kindergarten through 6th graders to follow me out of the sanctuary as the congregation sings with love. Thank you.
Today, we will share our collection with Nami, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization dedicated to building better lives for millions of Americans affected by mental illness. Nami works to educate, support, advocate, listen, and lead to improve the lives of people with mental illness and their loved ones. There are over 600 affiliates across the country, and one of them is right here in this county. I'm pleased to welcome to our pulpit today Nami Washtenaw County Board President Lois Maharg. Lois.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you very much, Reverend Roque. I am the board president currently of Nami Washtenaw County, and I really want to thank all of you for inviting us back to share your collection plate. I'd also like to tell you what attracted me first to Nami and a little bit about what our organization does. So my story starts back in 1993 when, after several years of living out on the West Coast, I came back to Illinois to visit my parents. I was concerned about my youngest brother, Matt. No sooner would he land a job with a small-town newspaper than 3 or 4 months later he was fired and would have to go back to live with my parents. This had happened several times, and every time it happened, I felt worse. Why wasn't Matt thriving? My greeting to my brother that day fell on deaf ears. Matt was absorbed in playing a Mario Brothers video game, and he didn't even look up to say hello to me. Worse, I realized as I sat down beside him on the sofa, he was playing the same game over and over and over again. This shocked me, and really, I was totally overwhelmed, because this was the first time that I saw that something was really wrong here, and that someone was going to have to do something about it, and I knew that was probably going to have to be me. So thus began my lonely, years-long quest to find help for my brother, that led from one mental health professional to another, one clinic to another, and on and on. Not until many, many years later did I learn about Nami, and I realized all that I had missed. What I would so have welcomed as I struggled to find help from my brother was peer support. And this is exactly what Nami provides. In addition to our advocacy work, we offer mental health-related classes, support groups, and presentations not as doctors or therapists, but rather as individuals and families with lived experience of mental health conditions. This lived experience, in combination with educational materials developed and updated by mental health professionals, allows us to help people who live with mental health conditions themselves and those of us who support such a person in our families. Now, we offer this help without cost to our participants. But of course, our programs aren't free for us. We get most of our funding as a nonprofit organization from grants and from donations. So we're very grateful to all of you for this opportunity to share your collection plate today. I and the other NAMI volunteers who are here today would love to meet you and talk with you after the service. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lois. NAMI began because a small group of families gathered around a kitchen table in 1979 and decided some action was needed to address the issue of mental illness and reduce the stigmatization associated with it. It affects all of us in some way or another. And as Lois explained, your financial donation today will allow this organization to provide the services they do at no cost to the clients. I invite the ushers to come forward now to receive our offering. You may leave checks or cash in the baskets or text UUAA to 73256. You may also donate online at uuaa.org/giving. Please give as you are able this morning, knowing any amount will make a difference in this life-saving work. Thank you for your generosity. I invite you to rise in body or spirit as we dedicate our offering. If the ushers would please come forward. I ask you to say these words with intention, knowing that your offerings matter to a great number of people. Thank you. Join me in saying, to the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings. Thank you. You may have a seat.
Love knocks and waits for us to hear, to open and invite. Love longs to quiet every fear and seeks to set things right. Love knocks and waits for us to hear, to open and invite. Love longs to quiet every fear and seeks to set things right. When Reverend Manish prompted in a worship team meeting earlier this summer, Carter, why don't you take the first Sunday in August, pick one of the UU principles, and give a little reflection on it? Without time to catch myself, I blurted, sure, I could do that. What was I thinking? What if I have nothing to say? What if I say something that offends? Will people be even interested in what I have to say? I really need love to quiet every fear now in this moment. Have you ever done this? Have you ever been too quick to say yes to something and then later thought, why in the world did I ever agree to do that? Or have you ever felt like you had nothing of value to offer? I think those feelings of self-doubt or questioning are fairly normal and probably happen to most of us sitting in this room or joining virtually. I know I have continually felt moments like that throughout my career as a musician and a teacher. I can vividly remember the beads of sweat that would form on my neck when I heard the sounds of 7th graders tearing down the hallway towards my choir room. What am I doing? Or the nerves that would settle in the pit of my stomach as I stood in front of an orchestra of professional musicians as we prepared to run the first act of Puccini's Madame Butterfly. Who thought it was a good idea for me to lead this group? The fear of failing is the scariest part, and it stops most people from starting. The only way to get where you want to go is to take a step in that direction. Love knocks and waits for us to hear, to open and invite. Love longs to quiet every fear and seeks to set things right. I would invite you to turn in the teal hymnals to number 1029, Love Knocks and Waits for Us to Hear. And let us join together in singing verses 1 and 2 of number 1029. Love knocks and waits for us to hear, to open and invite. Love longs to quiet every fear and seeks to set things right. Love offers life in spite of foes who threaten and condemn, embracing enemies. Love goes the second mile with them. One afternoon in the spring of 2021, I received a call from my major professor at Michigan State. He knew that I was actively looking for a job and wanted to tell me about an opportunity he had just learned about. He told me about a conversation he had with a minister from a church in Ann Arbor who was looking for someone to fill their open choir director position. Dr. Rail didn't know much about the church other than that the minister said they had a large choir and a very active music ministry. And he thought it sounded like an exciting opportunity for me to explore. So I took Dr. Rail's advice. I stopped what I was doing, which ironically was filling out an application for another job at that time. And I immediately emailed Reverend Manish to indicate my interest in speaking about this position. I was surprised when I received his response, what seemed like seconds after I sent the first email. We set a time for a phone conversation. After speaking with Reverend Manish and learning more about the position, more about Unitarian Universalism, and more about UUAA, I left feeling excited for the opportunity. I then spent the rest of the day reading what I felt like was everything on the UUAA website and the Unitarian Universalist Association website. I noticed that my feeling of excitement had shifted to a feeling of doubt. Why in the world would they be interested in me? Don't they know who I am? What could I possibly bring to this congregation? I grew up in South Louisiana in a strongly Christian and traditional household. I worked as a director of music in a United Methodist church and taught choir at an Episcopal school. During my time at Michigan State, I worked as the choir director at the Catholic church right off of campus. My musical training and educational background have been fairly traditional. I wouldn't fit in there. I wouldn't even know where to begin. Throughout the interview process, I immediately felt at home. I found this to be a welcoming and loving community of individuals supporting each other through this journey of life. At every step, I felt a sense of welcome and comfort from the ministers, staff, and congregation. So I took a step, moving towards an opportunity, one that seemed a little scary or a little daunting because it was new and because it was unfamiliar. The love of this congregation knocked and waited for me to listen. After the interview process, I knew that it was important and necessary for me to be open to change, for me to come into this position ready and willing to be transformed by a community so that I could be an effective leader in this position. If I had come in and said, we're only going to sing Christian hymns on Sunday morning or classical sacred choral repertoire with the Chalice singers, I probably wouldn't have lasted too long. This is a community of people who willingly gather to support one another along their spiritual journeys. Journeys that may have many twists and turns. Journeys that originate from many different traditions. Journeys that draw on a wide array of sources. Journeys that are guided by a set of principles. Love knocks and waits for us to hear, to open and invite. Love longs to quiet every fear and seeks to set things right. I now invite you to sing verses 3 and 4 of number 1029. Love comes to heal the broken heart, to ease the troubled mind. Without a word, love bids us start to ask and seek and find. Love knocks and enters at the sound of welcome from within. Love sings and dances all around and feels new life begin. This past year has been a time of transition for me. I've moved from East Lansing here to Ann Arbor. I moved from full-time student back into the working world. And most recently, I moved from fiance to husband. All of these transitions are new and exciting, but can bring with them a certain amount of apprehension. The question and wondering can creep in. A few months ago, Reverend Manish asked me what I believed it meant for me to be a spiritual teacher. I paused and thought for a minute. I'm not sure. I've never really thought of myself as a spiritual teacher, and to be honest, I'm not really sure what that is. What is a spiritual teacher? What is spirituality? The third principle of Unitarian Universalism encourages acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. Here, Reverend Manish, who is charged with the task of shepherding both staff and laypersons along their individual spiritual journeys, was encouraging me to take ownership over my own spirituality and my own spiritual growth. I have to admit that this was something very new to me. Throughout my life, growing up in a Methodist church, attending Sunday school, confirmation, youth group, spending 10 years as a church music director, attending at least 2 services most Sundays, I'm not sure that I had ever been charged with taking ownership over my own spirituality, over my own spiritual growth. This congregation, this community of seekers accepted me for who I am, and then encouraged me to ask questions, to be open to change, to move outside of my comfort zone and begin learning what is true for me. What a beautiful thing. It's not easy. It can be scary from time to time, but it is something that I will carry with me for the rest of my life. Now, I am thankful and consider myself lucky to have been welcomed and accepted and encouraged as I have come in this community. In many ways, I've seen my growth over the past year as an example of this congregation living into its principles. Is this the case for everyone? Are we a place where each person, no matter what age, ability, background, or perspective, can come in and feel welcomed, accepted, and encouraged to grow? Are there times when this is easier to do for some and more difficult to do for others? Are we open to being in relationship across lines of differences? Are we, as a community, open to being transformed by those who, no matter what age, ability, background, or perspective, bring just as much as we encourage that same openness for them? These can be tough questions, but I believe that this is a community who is up to the challenge. If we listen, if we are open, if we are ready to be transformed, if we are willing to take the step forward and not hold back, we just might be able to hear love. Love knocks and waits for us to hear, to open and invite. Love longs to quiet every fear and seeks to set things right. May we be a people who listen, who are open. Amen. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim. We are answering the call of love. Would you rise in body or spirit and join with me in singing number 1014, Answering the Call of Love? Now you may notice that the text is a little different in your hymnal, but the composer has changed the words of this hymn to be more inclusive. So we'll sing Answering the Call of Love whenever you see Standing on the Side of Love. Let us join together in singing. The promise of the Spirit, faith, hope, and love abide, and so every soul is blessed and made whole. The truth in our hearts is our guide. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim. We are answering the call of love. Sometimes we build a barrier to keep love tightly bound, corrupted by fear, unwilling to denying the beauty we found. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim. We are answering the call of moments. As Unitarian Universalists, we are called to accept one another and encourage spiritual growth in our community. May you listen to those moments when love is knocking and be ready to answer. May you take the step even when you are afraid you might fail. May you be open to being transformed by one another. Go in peace. Go in love until we are gathered together again.